Anita Burdett, a member of the worship team today, and I'm so happy to be here. On behalf of the entire congregation, thank you for being here, in person, on Zoom, or via YouTube. It's been a year of the unexpected, and yet our constant has been community. It is good to gather once more. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. Please fill out a blue visitor sheet in the welcome table in the front lawn or right inside the door before you go, so we can make sure you're personally welcomed and get added to our weekly newsletter mailing list. If you're joining online, send an email via office@firstu-indianapa.org to be asked to add it to our list. On Zoom, you'll see the chat button below the video screen. We use that feature for greetings, chalice lighting, and for joys and sorrows during the service. The First Unitarian Universalist Church of Indiana, PA, is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association. We are self-governing congregations united in a web of mutuality that creates our denomination. We have no creed or doctrine teaching that all individuals have the right and responsibility to discern and follow their own spiritual paths. We come together to support and assist each other on our journeys and to build our beloved community together. I invite you to stay after the service to greet one another and rejoice in our mutual presence. We will open up the microphones on Zoom for coffee hour, and folks here in person, you will be welcome to come and say hello at the side table to those joining us electronically. There are two special announcements. For our children's religious exploration, Penny Vic needs a registration form and liability release from all those children who are attending summer RE. Please make sure those are done before you go home today. We also need help putting away chairs after the service. Please sign up at the welcoming table before you leave if you can help us set up or take down in the coming weeks. It's going to be a big lift for a few people, or a little one with many hands this summer. Please help us co-create community space in this new way. Now I invite you to take a breath and settle yourselves in the spirit of worship.
Our call to worship is by Jennifer. Come, sit by our fire and let us share stories. Let me hear your tales of far-off lands, wanderer, and I will tell you of my travels. Share your experience of the holy with me, worshiper, and I will tell you of that which I find divine. Come and stay, lover of leaving, for ours is no caravan of despair, but of hope. We would hear your stories of grief, of sorrow, as readily as those of joy and laughter. For there is a time and a place of healing for all the stories of this world. Stories are the breath of life, the word and the spirit of life, that power which we name love. Come, for our fire is warm, and we have seats for all. Come, again and yet again. Come and speak to me of what fills your heart, what engages your mind, what resides in your soul. Come, let us worship together.
Now let us light our chalice flame. On Zoom, you may type "the flame is lit" and say where you are joining from on the chat bar. Our chalice lighting words will begin in the chat bar. This light we kindle is to set the lamp of our history. We inherit this free faith from the brave and gentle, fierce and outspoken hearts and minds that have come before us. Let us be worthy inheritors of this faith, and through our good works, pass boldly to a new generation.
Let us join together in hymn number 26, Holy, 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 stand in body or spirit. We now invite you to pass the sign of peace with one another, and especially to anyone you have met before or haven't seen recently. On Zoom, you may type a blessing in the chat bar for one another, such as Namaste, may peace be with you, Shalom, Salam Al-Kalam, or bright blessing.
Peace be with you guys. Peace be with you. Let's see, we got Mark. Hi, Mark and Pauline and Sarah. And Charles. Cool. And Marty.
How's it going? Pete?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I'd like you to go back to your seats now. Namaste, peace be with you. You know that you haven't seen each other before, but we'll coffee hour afterwards. Okay. Everybody back? All right. For our union moment this morning, we have a piece titled Words Matter by Reverend Carol Sissel. Diverse multicultural, inclusive, welcoming. If I made a list of every single Unitarian Universalist congregation I have served, visited, or worshiped at, they would have a few things in common, including the use of these words. Perhaps on the front of the order of service, or scrolling across the homepage of their website. Maybe they've emblazoned it on a rainbow-colored banner hanging in the sanctuary. Wherever you are, more often than not, these words are proudly combined with another expression that is embraced in everyday vernacular. All are welcome here. The congregations, churches, and fellowships on my list all have one or more of these words proudly on display. I know why they are used so freely. Initially, I am embraced by them. There's a warmth of recognition when my eyes first capture their sight. A sense of being acknowledged and valued moves from heart to head, and then a smile settles on my lips. My heart blooms. I feel like the welcome table has been set for me, and I am eager to pull up a chair. All of this takes place in an unmeasurable moment, but in the next instance, it is temporary. I remember past experiences and unconsciously recalculate and measure my response. The petals of my heart close a bit, and for protecting the delicate stigma and stamen that lie within. Fear of disappointment rises within me like the sun. I love those words. I want what they promise, but I've been repeatedly disappointed. It is not simply enough to print them on the order of service or the newsletter. They must have meaning and intention at their core. A desire for multicultural worship is wonderful, but it will not flower if that seed of yearning is not nurtured by a commitment and a plan. Longing for diversity of race, gender, or age is only a beginning. It calls for caring and creative programming. Our congregations are primarily white, female, and over 60. If we are to serve into the future, that must change. I believe that we can transform first ourselves and then the world. I am injured repeatedly when we are not. And do not do this. When we use words just for the sake of using them, I am hurt. Without true resolve, planning, and measurable goals behind the things I see and my trust and hope are broken. Why does it hurt? Every time I see those words, I feel the possible revival of Unitarian Universalism germinating in the warm soil of spirit. I've seen the transformation begin to take place in Washington State, Washington, D.C., and California. Congregations in Oklahoma continue to push our faith forward. So yes, I am hopeful but wary. On too many occasions and in too many places, these words and ideals which they carry are given lip service. Words matter. They lift and hold us. They illuminate the future and shower us with possibilities. When misused, they hurt. Verbal cuts and abrasions sting. Language leaves wounds that become scars. Words matter. If you and your congregation are not ready to meet the promises you craft and then share them with the world, stop publishing them. Please don't invite me to sit at your table unless you have a warm, satisfying meal to serve. It doesn't have to be a gourmet feast. A potluck is fine. The souffle may have only risen halfway. The cookies might be burned on the edges. The pasta can be overcooked. That's okay. I'm starving. What it must be is fulfilling, real, made with love, and ready to be eaten. Remember, I believe what you say and write. Words matter. We now invite you to join in the saying of our 7 principles together. You can find the principles in Zoom chat or on the front of your order of service. Unitarian Universalists covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, a free and responsible search for truth and need, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large, the goal of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, respect for the independent web of all existence of which we are a part. Our centering words come to us by Angela Herrera, and it's called How Poets Pray. What do you do with the secret verses of your heart? With your words, with your need for redemption, stored without words, with paradoxical truths, too private and nuanced to share, that cannot be printed or spoken aloud. We weave their energy into a poem, carefully, over and under and through, luminescent strands that cannot be unteased until the poem is shot through with light from an unknown origin. And you whisper it into the dark. Breeze forms delivered into the deep. We now come to the time in our worship when we share in community all the joys and sorrows and concerns and gratitudes for our lives. Our joys may be multiplied and our burdens lessened by sharing. We begin with a time of silence during which you are invited to write on a card or type in the chat bar if you would like to share a joy or sorrow, concern, or accomplishment in your life. Please place your card in the basket, sorry about that, as the usher goes by for inclusion in our pastoral prayer.
in our worship service that we set aside each Sunday, that time when we contemplate the joys, the sorrows, the mixed blessings of our lives. We hope that in sharing, our burdens may be lessened, our joys multiplied in the telling. So now let us join hearts and minds together in the spirit of prayer, a spirit of life, of love, of creative possibility. May we be blessed in our time together, and may we share these milestones of our living. May we lift up Judith, whose mixed blessing was speaking with her sister this week, discussing mutual frustration, worry, but also concern for one another, stemming from caring. May we wish the Barefoot family well as they have moved to Delaware and are now settled in a new home. We are grateful for the time they spent with us in our community. We hope that connection will be maintained from a distance. We offer prayers and love from this congregation for Lori Gonda and her family. Her brother Joe passed away this week. And our prayers reach out to the wider world as well. We continue to hold gratitude for those who are able to be vaccinated, concern for all those not yet eligible or who have not yet chosen to take a vaccination. We hope that science and that community spirit will guide people in their decision making. We hope that all people will know that they are held in love, that we care for each and every person among us. And we hold in our care so many people in the world still being displaced by climate change, people living in oppressive circumstances. And we hold the memory of 100 years since the race riot in Tulsa, the massacre by white people of a black community. Though it has been 100 years, we know that racism and its effects reverberate across the generations. May this anniversary amplify our caring and remind us that this work is a journey which continues. And so, as the seasons change, as unexpected weather makes our days different and newly possible, may we hold tight to the blessings of the ever-changing world. May we be grateful for the beauty of the earth. May we give thanks for all that is good, for those who are done with school or nearly so. May we hold the joyful possibility of summer. And for those whose hearts are feeling tender, fragile, who bring sorrow or grief, may this community offer comfort and strength. May our hearts be healed, and may we be filled with peace. In this space, may we hold blessing. Amen. And blessed be.
At First Union Louisiana, we shed the plate by giving a portion of every week's donations to an organization outside the church. This is part of our congregation's mission to promote compassionate and responsible thought and action in the world by giving back to the community around us. So when you give this morning, know that you are making an impact not only for this congregation, but also in the wider community through our shared giving. This month, our Share the Plate recipient is the Chevy Chase Center, which empowers the disadvantaged population of Indiana County with love, nutrition, education, and involvement, providing healthy meals, programs for youth, and much more for those in need. In addition to giving generously today, the Community Center is always looking for volunteers for a variety of positions. Most simply require time and enthusiasm for helping others. Areas of general help are often needed for basic daily operations, i.e. unpack food and set up or tear down, kitchen prep, building care, etc. And some require specific skills. Your assistance is welcome, as well as your monetary donations. Please give as you are able to the work of this church, within and beyond our walls, as we share and sing our offertory hymn.
This month, our theme is story. And each week, we have been thinking about the ways in which stories we tell, stories we hear, affect us, shaping our perceptions of the world, our ability to understand possibility, the ways in which we live our lives are shaped by story. In a book called The Storytelling Animal, there's a study, there are many studies done, about the ways that people understand the world around them. Humans, indeed most greater mammals, are set up as those who dream, which is to say our brains are programmed for story. We practice what it means to be our dreams are often about things that are dangerous. Researchers found when cats dream, they dream of hunting, jumping, chasing mice, or of being hunted, of larger creatures running after them. They show fear, they show playfulness. They are practicing what it means to be a small predator. And we do the same. How many people have had a stress dream when you are feeling perhaps a bit overworked? Maybe there's a big test coming up, and suddenly you're in a classroom, but it's a class you've never taken. Suddenly, there's a test about to be given, and then something happens. Maybe you suddenly realize you don't speak the language the test is in. Maybe it's a class you've never studied for about a book you didn't read. Maybe you're not wearing clothes in the test room. Whatever it is, your brain is thinking about the possibility of failure. Your brain is practicing how to deal with emotions. When we are born into this world, we co-regulate. We begin to figure out how to deal with being human from other humans. We learn language, the very sounds that babies make, shaping themselves to the sounds of the people around them. As we get bigger, the stories become more complicated. Not simply a reflection, I'm hungry, are you hungry, baby? You hungry? It's true. That is a good story to know. But they become whole myths. From Grimm's fairy tales, which teach us that sometimes the world is scary, and perhaps it is good to know your way home, to more and more complex. How was the world created? What came first? Tiny bacteria, then plants, animals, people? That is an amazing story. Whether it's evolution or the biblical creation story that begins in the beginning. And we are drawn to language that explores possibility. There's a reason that the King James Bible is so beloved, even as we know that it is not an accurate translation of biblical words. It is because instead of saying the jellyfish and things, it says, "O ye dragons and deeps, ye sea monsters." It is poetic language. It captures our imagination. The monsters that could be in the deep, the dragons across the waters, all that has been, all that could be. And this is why Carol Sissel wrote in our UU moment, words matter. Say them only if you mean them. For we, the people of many scriptures, are sometimes also a people of nothing in particular that we hold sacred. But we can. Our guiding principles, if we hold them as sacred possibility, Lead us to a world that could be a miracle. A world in which there is so much compassion that every person could be held within it when they need. A world in which there is enough love that difference can be not divisive, but something to cherish and hope for. The story of this community has been one that we have been uncovering together in these past 2 years I have been with you. So much has changed. Yet at core, we are still a congregation who cares, a congregation who protects one another. When I came here, the core stories that you all told me, that you needed me to know, were that this congregation cares deeply. We just need a reason to do. We just need a little nudge. And that has been so true this past year. This congregation, you told me, is a congregation with a strong sense of community. And a congregation where coffee hour is as sacred as the worship service. It's so true. This congregation has welcomed new people, has managed to reach out even when the building was closed for 14 months. That is a story to be proud of. This congregation has stories of strength, stories of love, stories of hardship, stories of change. I come back again and again to the classic Universalist quote, "Ask not where a Unitarian Universalist stands, for we do not stand, we move." We have moved from a denomination in which our classic holy, holy, holy centers us in a singular God, to one in which theological pluralism abounds, and we worship sometimes in ways that center a more Christian history, sometimes in ways that uphold the value of religious naturalism or paganism. Sometimes we hold worship that is about people, that centers one another and the possibilities of humanism. And most of the time, we are weaving these all together, knowing that our words matter, that the stories we tell center us, and that at the core, what is under those always imperfect and incomplete words is a boundless love that will not let us go. That is the center of our story. That is the moral that we tell again and again. There is love enough for every one of us. And so, as we notice and uphold that love, whether we call it love or human possibility or blessings, whether we call it God or Allah or the gods and goddesses, whether we call it Mother Earth and Father Sky, or all creation, let us hold tight to love as the core of all that there is, and the core of all our faith in this ever-changing world in which we need stories that call us onward. Blessed be. Amen.
Closing words. In our hungering for meaning, it comes to us by Bruce Southworth. In our hungering for meaning, in our aching for friendship, in our yearning for justice, in our hearts remembering of finer days, may we look deep within the mystery of things and gather our strength. May each of us proclaim as one of God's spies the graceful power of life and love. And so may we live in hope. Amen. Now please join in singing. Now let us sing.
Hymn number 368. Please stand in body or spirit.
Church with all this new stuff. Anyway, it's happening.
I invite you
Yeah, you can see.
to join with me in saying together our words as we extinguish our child's flame. We extinguish our child's flame,
The light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
And let us close with words by Octavia Butler, who wrote, "All that you touch, you change, and all that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change." So let us remember, in an ever-changing world, in an unpredictable life, let us tell stories of faith, of hope, of love, and of joy to sustain our hearts and bring our spirits peace. Blessed be.